So, the farmers struggle. The farmers struggle. Now, farmers in many regions of the world struggle. Farmers in many parts of the world are having a hard time. And so I start with this because I need you to understand that your struggle is not peculiar. Your struggle is not just about you alone. The struggle is universal. So the struggle of the farmer is not just something happening in Nigeria, happening in Togo, in Kenya. It's a universal struggle. As a matter of fact, it has now become like a norm to hear people say things like, hey, the farther you are from the farm, the richer you would become. And the question then becomes, if everybody aims to be far from the land, who is going to produce the food that others would work on? And you realize that this is because there is uh, there is no fair trade in the system, meaning you realize that there is no structure in place to ensure that people who are tilling the soil, people who are doing primary production, raising the livestock and all, benefit from the value chain. Now, when you talk about farmer struggle, there are five major culprits that you will hear people talk about. One, you will hear things like, A, people do not have access to modern tools and technology, and this is why the farmer is struggling. I mean, we say this all the time. Oh, the farmer does not have access to modern tools, no modern technology, no modern tools, no modern technology. This is why they are suffering. But again, we need to also remember that there used to be a time when these tools did not exist and the farmers were fine, which means civilization has brought us to a point where the tools that used to be good are no longer good enough. Another major one you will go into here, because I am starting with this first as a background so that we are able to correctly walk through a series of conversation in this literature to say, this is what is wrong, this is how we can fix it, this is what we need to do. So next you hear stories around high cost of inputs and low access to credit. I'm sure you've heard of that. Oh, the cost of input is going up, cost of agrochemicals, cost of fertilizers, cost of seed, cost of whatever it is that you have to use as an input, and the cost of access to credit is high, meaning you today in Nigeria, the NPR from the CBN to the banks is about 27%, but cost of input is going high. So the cost to get money to run the farm is too expensive, yet the cost of input is going very high. This again, it's a big issue. A third issue is around there is unreliable market asset and price volatility. Unreliable market access, meaning most farmers do not even know what the market would say tomorrow. You are not sure what would happen. I mean, right now, the price of cassava has dropped drastically in Nigeria. It has gone like way, way low, and you have a lot of cassava farmers crying. That in itself is an issue. So you don't even know what the market would say. You do not have control over the market. You do not have control over the pricing system. Today, the price can be high, and for no reason, price becomes low tomorrow. It is possible in your planting season, it felt like all your permutations and calculations will come out well. But when it is time to harvest, the whole price nosedives, and before you know what is happening, it feels like you do not know what you are doing as a farmer. Number 4 is the reality of climate change and environmental challenges. I was having a conversation with a man a few days ago, and the man said he has 50 hectares of, about 40 hectares, of maize farm. And it's quite interesting that in his 40 hectares, he said he planted maize when the rain first started, and he figured, hey, I'm good. And before you know what was happening, the rain stopped abruptly for no reason. By the time the rain came back, he had lost everything he had. Now, he has to restart from scratch. So, the fact that you cannot predict the weather, you do not even know what tomorrow says for a farmer, that in itself is a huge risk. Not knowing what tomorrow is, not knowing whether it will rain. And the problem with the impact of climate change is not just whether or not it would rain, because it is easy for us to say, hey, get irrigation system, hey, get greenhouses, control your weather. It is easy to say that, oh, bring in mulching film, bring in weed mat, you will have better control, plant cover crops. So even if you are doing open field, you are able to control the pattern of water flow and erosion. But you see, it is much more than that. Why is it much more than that? You realize that the change in climate pattern over time affects to a large extent the types of diseases that would become prevalent. It changes the kind of pests. It even changes how these pests affect what we do. So what that ends up happening, unfortunately, is the farmer that used to be an expert has now become a novice, because there are new patterns of diseases that that farmer has never dealt with before, that automatically throws them off balance. Automatically throws them off balance. So the question then becomes, what is the hope of the farmer? Again, the struggling farmer struggles not just because of his inefficiencies as a farmer. And the whole essence of this conversation is to see what can we do, what can be done such that the farmer that is struggling can move from a place of struggle to a point where he no longer struggles, where she no longer struggles. Because it is disheartening. I mean, think about it. The current president of AFDB, Dr. Akinwumi Adesina, said by the year 2030, African agriculture will be worth $1 trillion. That is not an exaggeration. Africans today are about 1.2 billion people. 1.2 billion people. If you imagine 100,000 million, imagine an African spends about 1,500 naira on food daily. That's just about $1 on food daily. Now, multiply that by 365. Let's divide and turn back to dollar at 1.5. That's 100,000 million. That's about $438 billion. Rough estimate. We've not added other value chains that come from agriculture. This is just assuming primary production for consumption. That's about $438 billion. So him saying it will be worth $1 trillion, it's not him lying. But you see, the reality is that Africa agriculture will be worth $1 trillion does not mean African farmers will be worth $1 trillion. Again, I say that Africa agriculture will be worth $1 trillion does not mean the wealth of the African farmers will be $1 trillion. It does not mean the valuation of African farmers. It does not mean the valuation of the companies owned by farmers cumulatively will be worth $1 trillion. That is not what it means, unfortunately. Unfortunately. And that is because we need to have a system that ensures that the farmers becomes beneficiary of their toil. Becomes beneficiary of their toil. And for this to happen, I'm trying to lay a foundation. For this to happen, we need to remember there is a part of, permit me to use the Bible scripture that I love so much. It says that, I think it was Paul that was writing. Paul said, I wish above all things that thou mayest prosper and be in good health, even as your soul prospers. So it means the foundation of my prayer for your prosperity, the prayer for your prosperity and your health prospering, it is based on your soul prospering. It is based on your soul prospering. He says, I wish above all things that thou mayest prosper and be in good health, even as your soul prospers. So, the prosperity around my finances, the prosperity around my health is first dependent on that my soul is prospering. So the question for me then became, what is the soul? Because if the soul needs to have prospered, I need to know what is the soul. Because if I do not know what the soul is, I do not know what I need to focus first to prosper, so that other things can now prosper, piggy banking off that one. Now, when you look at the soul, there's your mind prospers. Even as your mind prospers. So, it simply means that whether I am going to move from a struggling farmer to a wealthy farmer, if I am going to move from a struggling farmer to a wealthy farmer, from a struggling farmer to a healthy farmer, first, I need to have the right knowledge. I need to have the right mind. Very important, because you realize that when you look at some of the poorest farmer, the unhealthy people in society, or not even the poorest farmer, if you look at some of the poorest people in the nation, especially in developing nations, they are farmers. Look at some of the most unhealthy people in developing nations also, they are farmers. But the key to ensure that the farmers are wealthy and healthy lies in a simple truth, that they have the knowledge. They have the requisite knowledge to build a healthy life and a wealthy life. The requisite knowledge to build a healthy life and a wealthy life. In the series of our conversation, what I want to try to focus on is, what knowledge do you need to have as a farmer? What knowledge do you need to have as a farmer? What knowledge do I need to develop as a farmer? So that when I am able to differentiate between assumption and real information, that I can differentiate facts from information, I can understand policies and farming, science and business, people management, finance, record keeping, how to be fruitful and multiply, the market dynamics, the business model, wealth, vision, how to become a king in what you do, how to build a wealth pyramid, how to move from struggle to survival to legacy. Then, finally, how to put your struggle on a timeline to end it. So, we are going to be having series of conversations. And the goal is to see that we are able to have a new generation of farmers who are not just farmers producing food, but that they are healthy, one, and two, that they are wealthy. So I don't just want us to have healthy farmers, but also wealthy farmers. It is not either or. It is not they are either healthy or they are wealthy. No. Because you see, we need to be able to change the status quo for farmers. We need to be able to do that. And why am I passionate about this? See, if you use Nigeria as an example, most of our population are farmers. Most of our population also are poor. Now, it does not take a soothsayer or a genius to do the correlation to know that if most of the population are farmers and most of the population are poor, then it only makes sense that the majority of the poor are farmers. It only makes sense that majority of the poor people are farmers. So what that essentially would mean is if majority of the poor people are farmers, then it means if I can help the farmers to grow, automatically I am also able to take people out of poverty. And normally we say that there are two ways to help people build wealth. There are two ways to help people build wealth. Way number one is you either help everybody increase their revenue, whether it is salary, whatever they do, increase their revenue across board. They will become richer. Option number two, if I cannot increase everybody's money across board, their revenue, then the second option is I must be able to reduce what they spend money on, reduce the price of things they spend money on. So right now we know there has been a statistics in Nigeria that says that, Nigerians spend over 50% of their income on food. So if I can reduce their price of food, by default the farmers becomes wealthier because now they now have more disposable income to do other things. They now have more disposable income to do a whole lot of other things. I think that makes sense. Now, essentially what I'm trying to say then is, as farmers or as individuals, we then must ask ourselves, which looks more practical? A more practical one is to say, can we help farmers? Because if I can help a farmer, well, if I can take a farmer away from his struggle, the helping of a farmer would help the whole community at large. And in a generation or two, we can defeat poverty in Nigeria. In a generation, it's not going to be something that will happen overnight. But in a generation or two, we can defeat poverty. In a generation or two, we can then ensure that famine and poverty are not seen as one and the same anymore. In a generation or 2. So, in our conversation, what we want to do is simple. We want to create that system to ensure that we can take out people from struggling. The struggles of the farmer is not something peculiar to Nigeria. It is happening across Africa. It is happening across Africa. And we owe it to ourselves to build the right knowledge to get ourselves out of the struggle. To get ourselves out of the struggle. Now, to start this conversation, we start from a simple space where I call facts and assumption. Facts and assumption. Fact and assumption. And I choose to start from here because one of the things I have realized is the fact that, or is the truth that, the mind is a wonderful thing. Our mind is a wonderful thing, a wonderful place. And I say that because one of the things I have realized about the mind is the mind cannot be void. The mind cannot be void. So, whenever we are not sure of a thing, the mind has a way of filling in the gaps to just make it make sense. Let me look for a way to explain that so that it might make a bit of sense. Imagine right now you are driving a car and there is somebody in your front who is driving anyhow. You know that all things being equal, you will be angry in your mind, like, why is this guy driving like this? What's wrong with this guy? What's wrong with this? Blah, 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 and so on and so forth. Now, imagine when you are able to finally overtake, you now realize that the person driving the car is a woman in labor who is writhing in pain, alone, trying to get to the hospital. Now, you will notice something that will be funny is the fact that your anger will automatically disappear, right? Your anger will automatically disappear and you will suddenly have pity for that person, right? Which means the reason why you were really angry was not because of, how will I put it? Was more of, your anger was as a result of the fact that you figured that the person was being intentionally wicked. Or you figured that this person was a bad driver. So your anger stemmed from an assumption, not a fact, that this driver is bad. That was why you were angry, that this driver is bad. But what you notice is, once you realize that, oh, this is a pregnant woman trying to drive herself to the hospital, she's in pains and all, your anger disappears. Now, it means many a time as farmers, we deal on assumptions. On assumptions. I don't know how many times you have heard a farmer say, I am going to plant so and so, and you're like, okay, what are you going? And they will tell you, oh, there is market. Assumption. Assumption. We deal on assumptions. And if you are going to be a person that will not struggle as a farmer, one of the first things you need to deal with is assumption. Thanks. Take a look at your business. How many things are you doing out of assumptions? How many things, thank you, how many things are you doing out of assumptions? Because you remember when we started, I said, knowledge is important. I said knowledge is important. Excuse me. I said knowledge is important. But the reality is, we do not know that many a time we are building our businesses around assumptions. Assumptions. How many things have you assumed around your businesses? Think of the staff that you hired. What were the verifiable facts that made you hire that staff? The crops that you are growing, what were the facts around picking those crops? The animals that you are rearing, what are the facts behind choosing those animals? What are you really doing out of facts? What are you doing out of assumptions? Your business model, your operating procedures, are they based on real verifiable facts, or are they based on assumptions? Are you following a trend, or is there really a factual system you are following? Because you see, if you do not know whether you are running through assumption, that's why I started by saying our mind has a way of bridging the gap. Please excuse me. Excuse me. Our mind has a way of bridging the gap. Our minds have a way of bridging the gap. Because wherever we do not have facts, our brain will find a way to fill in that gap, that we start treating the assumptions like facts. Back to the example I started with, where I said you are driving and there is somebody in your front driving anyhow. You did not have any verifiable proof why that driver was driving the way they were driving. But your assumption that they are a bad driver is why you were angry. Your assumption that they don't know how to drive is why you were pissed off. Until you now got to the driver's window and realized, oh, is a pregnant woman in labor who is driving herself to the hospital. So you then realize suddenly that the anger that you had was not an anger that was based on facts, but an anger that was built on assumption. Anger that was built on assumption. So the question again is, how many times have you built your business on assumption, but you told yourself or you ran thinking you were building it based on facts? Because you see, the reason a lot of farmers are struggling is that the level of assumption in their businesses is just too much. Why did you buy land in that place? Why is your land in that village? If you check it, you realize that there were assumptions you made. There were probably really no verifiable facts. Why did you even start this business? Why did you choose farming? Why are you a farmer? Are there verifiable facts that you followed? Or are there assumptions? Or maybe in your case, you are a farmer by inheritance. Or you are a farmer by circumstance. What do I mean by a farmer by inheritance? You are a farmer because the people around you, or by inheritance, you are a farmer because your father was a farmer, and because you are the child of your father, you are the default person to inherit the farm. So you are not a farmer for a fact. There is the assumption that, oh, a child should take over their parents' business. Or you are a farmer by circumstance. Things were not working and you were told, then just try out this farming thing now. Should be there is land. Some people have land. You can take land. I'll give you land. I'll give you this. And you're like, okay. Rather than beg, let me do this. And you are wondering why that business is struggling. Maybe the land you are farming on today, or the place where your farm is located, it is because of where you got land. So there was no fact around it to know whether this place is good for business. You didn't do any fact finding, nothing around it. Instead, the only reason why you are farming in that place, why your farm is in that village, is not because of facts, you're just assumptions. Just assumptions. What are those assumptions that you have made as a farmer? Assumptions are guesses without evidence. Assumptions are guesses without evidence. It is either guesses based on tradition, hearsay, or incomplete information. They are guesses either based on tradition. In this place, e.g., the whole story of tomatoes cannot grow in the southern part of Nigeria. That was not a verifiable fact. It is just, traditionally they don't grow it here, so maybe it cannot do well. Onions cannot do well in the southern part of Nigeria. Tradition. There is no fact around it, just a tradition. At times, it could even be a hearsay. Not that you can verify, you just heard they say. And now you have built your business on hearsay. They say that next year tomato go scarce. Next year maize go scarce, e go choke. So you went to start a maize farm on hearsay. Now next year don show, maize price no choke. And you don go spent all your money to start a maize farm. But the maize farm, by next year, people are not looking for maize the way you thought they will. Hearsay. Go and buy oil and store. Next year, the price of oil will skyrocket. Next year came, price of oil did not skyrocket. Now you are shouting that, you did storage, it did not work, it's not profitable, you were misled. The question is, were you really misled or you followed hearsay? Because hearsays are assumptions, they are not verifiable facts. At times, it could be incomplete information. I tell those around me that regularly, I tell them regularly, I say, no information is better than half information. Not knowing about an opportunity at all is better than incomplete information about an opportunity and you dive into it. Because incomplete information about an opportunity means you are going to invest your resources and not get the reward. Because you are going to do things, but you will not do enough to get the reward, but you will do enough to have regrets. You will do enough to have regrets. Facts are supported by research. Facts are supported by verifiable information. Remember, my people perish for lack of knowledge. So, the reason that farmer is struggling is that there is a knowledge lacking. But the farmer does not know that the person is running their business on assumptions and not facts. Not facts. They are running their business on assumptions, not facts. They do not know. And they are wondering, why are they not seeing the result? They are wondering, why are they not seeing the result? So it is important you look at your business as the first step to say, what are those things that are assumptions in my business? What are those things? Take time and check your business. What are those things that are assumptions in my business? Check it out. See, this is going to be a hard look inwards. Check the information you are running your business with. Are these verifiable information? Who is the source of this information? What is your credibility? Information now someone said is not information. That is hearsay. Who is saying it? Who is saying it? Because again, you must be careful in this time of AI that there is a whole lot of misinformation around. There is a whole lot of misinformation that may come across as true info, but they are still not the right information. So it is important to ask, whose information am I consuming? Are you an expert? Whose information am I consuming? Are you the right source of this information? You need to know. Oh, they are telling you your farm needs fertilizer, but you have gone to have you done soil tests to verify the fertilizer that you need? Because it is true that your soil will need fertilizer, but it is not true that every kind of fertilizer will work for your soil. No. Because it is like saying, I am sick. Yes. But does that mean I can take any drug? No. Not every drug can cure the sickness. So for me to know the kind of drug that I need to take, I first need to diagnose, what do I have? Take for example, as we are having this session, I am having cough, a bit of cough. I am having catarrh. But cough and catarrh are not sickness of themselves. Rather, they are a symptom of something. A symptom of something. If I do not run a test, I may end up treating the catarrh and the cough and it goes, but I have not dealt with the root cause. And that is where assumption is dangerous. That is where assumption is dangerous. So, yes, you need to use fertilizers, but I need an expert that will check out the facts and say, okay, wait, the kind of land that you have, you need nitrogen 10, phosphorus 2, potassium 1. So don't buy 15 fertilizer, because there has now been a diagnosis to ensure that whatever I am applying is what my land needs, not about what I can afford. Are we together? So, next is, you also need to ask yourself your market data. Where are you getting it from? Who is telling you about the market data? How did you hear about what will be scarce next? One of the most fun statements you would hear from farmers is, November every year, tomato is scarce. So we are going to plant and wait ahead because tomatoes will be scarce. And you just start laughing like, okay, was it this? I think this year they said, there was something they said the price, I can't remember now, something that the price was supposed to go up. And it did not happen like that. Because the fact that you are checking history does not make it a verifiable fact. You need to understand that. There are parameters economists use to check to say this is verifiable. To say this is verifiable. Next, differentiating facts from assumption, diagnose your business. Document and analyze. How do we make decisions in this company? How do we make decisions in this company? As a farmer, maybe I am still a smallholder farmer, that I am the only farmer all working alone. How do I make my decisions? What are the yardstick that I use? Is it internet I check? If it is internet I check, am I checking through social media? If it is social media, for example, you go online and check Farmer Samson's page to try to figure out what to do. How does Farmer Samson get his information? Okay, thank you. People said price of grain was going to go up very high. People started hoarding grain. What is happening now? It is going down. So if it is Farmer Samson's page I use in making decision, I then need to document and analyze what is Farmer Samson's result. Is Farmer Samson an online farmer or a real farmer? You need to start asking questions. If Farmer Samson is a real farmer, what is he farming? What am I farming? Because if Farmer Samson is specialized on tomatoes, but you want to specialize on pepper, then my facts cannot be your facts. My fact will work for me, but they are assumptions for you. I say that again. The facts that are working for me are just assumptions for you. You then need to ask, am I and Farmer Samson using the same technology? Are we really sharing the same issues? Because if the answer is no, then whatever I give you is an assumption that needs to go through your fact verification system to analyze, to say, okay, I have heard this, but based on our reality, what does this mean? Based on where we operate, what does this mean? What does it mean? You need to start asking these questions, because my truth may not work for you. My reality may not work for you. A truth that sets me free can put you in bondage. A truth that sets me free, a truth that allowed me build my wealth, can put you in bondage in your farm. Because what is true for my business may not be true for your business. This is why, as a farmer, you need to understand your business. Remember that when you start that business, one of the rules under the law is that you must register that business. And we say when you register a business, that business now becomes a different entity from you. You know, we say that. So that business is like a human being different from you. And you know, we say when you are raising, even if you give birth to twins, we say there are no two children that are the same. No two children that are the same. So if there are no two children that are the same, it also means that there are no two businesses that are the same. We may look like we are in the same environment and everything, but we are not the same. So, dear farmer, if you are going to build something of repute, if you are going to overcome the struggles, if you are going to get out of the shackles, build your business on facts, not assumption. Dear farmer, ask yourself, how many assumptions are in my business? Your struggle is tied to your assumptions, not your facts. A lot of struggling farmers have majority of what they do in their businesses tied to assumptions. And if you are going to come out of that, of that whole issue, then you need to come out of assumptions. You need to get out of assumption. There is nothing that kills a man faster than running on ignorance that he believes is the truth. Misinformation is worse than no information. Your brain cannot be void. Your brain, your mind cannot be void, cannot be empty. Wherever you do not have what it takes to cover up the remaining part, your mind will bring up assumptions and make it sound real. This is why you will notice that at times when you are having those bad thoughts, your mind can create the bad thoughts to the extent it feels real and you become depressed. The mind is a powerful tool. It can make your assumption look like facts. This is why you need to sit down before our next conversation, before you flip the page. Take time and think through and ask yourself, what are the assumptions in my business? What are the assumptions in my farm? What things am I assuming? See, do not overlook the small things that you assume. There is a law of minimum that says that your biggest what affects your yield the most are the things that you need in minute quantity. I am paraphrasing. If you look at the foods that we eat, we say the primary food, carbohydrate, protein, and fat and oil. We say other things like vitamins, minerals, water, salt. These are welfare food or micronutrients because you need them in smaller quantities. But when you look at the major diseases that affect the body, the human being, they stem from these micronutrients. Because some of them needs to be available for your body to absorb the bigger ones. Think about it. Blood is essential in our body. Blood is essential, like essential. But guess what? For blood to form, we need iron. But iron is just a micronutrient. Your red blood cell needs iron to form. But iron is just a micronutrient, not a macronutrient. So we must ask ourselves, what are those things that we need what are those things in my businesses that might look inconsequential, that might look minute, but are running on assumptions? Check your staff. Check your security. Check your laborers. What are the assumptions I have made that are making my business struggle? Did you hire that person based on a fact or because he's your brother? That your accountant, is he your accountant because they are competent or because you have known them for long? That your business associate, are they your associate because peace must reign or because there is a value they truly bring on board? What assumptions are you using to run your business that looks like facts? Are you selling to that market because it is a comfort zone or are they really profitable? Are you taking that loan because you know you can beg them and they will allow you owe for longer, or because they are your best option for loan or credit? What assumptions have you made? Dear farmer, assumptions can kill your business. Assumptions can kill your business. Assumptions can kill your business, dear farmer. So as a farmer, our first conversation was understanding facts and assumption. Because remember our text that we started with, I wish that thou mayest prosper and be in good health, even as your soul prospers. And I said your soul is the seat of the mind. And the mind is about the knowledge. And knowledge is supposed to be built on facts. But where there are gaps in knowledge, your mind will generate assumption to fill that gap. And the worst thing that can happen to you is to start running your business on assumption, thinking they are facts. Unfortunately, your mind will not filter it out. And the best way, or the reason why you start realizing you begin to struggle as a farmer in business, is because you are now running on assumption and not facts. You are now running on assumptions and not facts. And if you are going to build a sustainable business, if you are going to terminate the hurdle of struggle in your business, you need to get out of assumptions and step into facts. So, this is part one. By the time we flip next class, we will then look at policy, farming, and getting out of struggle. Policy, farming, and getting out of struggle. Thank you for joining. Have a great morning. Good morning.